I was an influencer before it was a job description, I think. Like all these
Mhm.
young people now out here are all about, friend me, follow me. And what they don't realize is that if you don't have any real content to teach people, no one's going to care. So you really have to focus on how you're serving your audience before you ask somebody to follow you.
From humble beginnings, Insurance Claim HQ has grown to one of the largest property casualty firms in the country. We didn't do it alone, and you shouldn't either. Every week, we're talking to claims professionals and top experts from all over, all to help you grow your business and make you stronger. Let's level up together. I'm Galen Hare. Welcome to the Level Up Claims Podcast. Running a small business isn't for the faint of heart. Whether you're a public adjuster, contractor, or attorney, you're constantly juggling lead generation, cash flow, and the never-ending challenge of scaling your business without burning yourself out. Many small business owners find themselves trapped in the day-to-day grind, struggling to work on their business instead of just in it. Today, we're sitting down with someone who has helped thousands of entrepreneurs break free from that cycle. She's an author, speaker, and consultant who has worked with Fortune 500 brands like Visa, Google, and FedEx to help small businesses thrive. She's here to share actionable strategies on how to scale your business, master social selling, and create financial stability. Please welcome Melinda Emerson. Melinda, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my God. So I am so pumped. So first of all, from Philly. So congrats. Big Super Bowl win.
Yeah, we're still celebrating in the streets in Philadelphia for sure.
We actually rescheduled this podcast because Melinda lost her voice. She was screaming so loud for the Eagles. So congrats again. I know y'all worked really hard for that. And, it probably felt like it was never going to come.
Well, you know what? I just think that a lot of people dog Jalen Hurts like all season long. And it was just like, that's why they had to demolish the Chiefs. They couldn't just beat them. They had to take their courage and their pride too.
Oh God. Yeah. It wasn't even a contest,
It wasn't a contest with the Commanders 2 weeks before that either. Like we whooped them both like, government mules, as they say. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely unfortunately destroyed that narrative of like the Chiefs have been getting the refs to win games for them because
Repeat my anyway. Yeah, I'm not gonna go there, but
All right, well, back to business. So look, I mean, Melinda, you've had such an incredibly successful career, like incredibly successful. You've consulted with Fortune 500s, but you do a lot of like small business work. And I guess I'm kind of curious, like you've worked with some of the biggest of the biggest of the big. So what draws you to small business?
Well, it's always been about small business, right? So I'm my marketing consulting firm, Quintessence Group. We work with Fortune 500 brands that target small business owners. But the reason why we're so good at it is because nobody knows small business like the small biz lady knows small business, right? So we have a huge online community. Literally, I reach nearly 1 million entrepreneurs each week online every week with my content information, from my blog to my newsletters to the people that subscribe to my newsletter, even on LinkedIn. Like we just have always put out a ton of content since I first got started back in '08, right? And my best-selling book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, has actually been in print with Simon and Schuster. This month will make it 15 years. And we're on the third edition of that book. So I think the reason why I always wanted to build up my community of small business owners so that I didn't have to sell to small business owners. I went to corporations to pay me to educate small business owners, right? So that's like sort of like how our business model has always worked. And it worked well. I mean, I was an influencer before it was a job description, I think. Like all these
Mhm.
young people now out here are all about, friend me, follow me. And what they don't realize is that if you don't have any real content to teach people, no one's going to care. So you really have to focus on how you're serving your audience before you ask somebody to follow you.
I'm so glad you said that, Melinda. So like, here's the thing. There's so many talking heads in so many industries. that don't have any real substance behind them. They
Mm-mm.
produce what I call like surface level content, like hashtag blessed, right? Like nothing educational, nothing helpful, or
Right.
maybe they go the opposite way, right? Maybe they go negative, always posting bad things about people and things, but nothing helpful. And I'll mess up the stats, so I'm not going to repeat it. But you have like thousands of unique entrepreneurs or business owners or business affiliates consume your content every week. Every
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
So I like the whole thing about I was an influencer before it was a job description because you have built an entire brand, two brands really, around, your podcasts, your blog articles, your books, your posts. I
Mhm.
mean, your website is like a treasure trove of information, like all for free, really at the end
Yeah.
of the day.
I mean, look, if you really want to know what I teach people, spend a day and a half, getting lost on my blog. I mean, literally, we have over 5,000 articles that I've written. And this was pre AI, people. Like, I actually wrote these articles. I actually wrote my book myself. I have a
Hmm.
journalism degree from Virginia Tech. Go Hokies. So I mean, I think that it's interesting what's going on now. I feel like since the pandemic, every Tom, Dick, and whoever is a coach, right? And all these people are out on LinkedIn flossing, not LinkedIn, but Instagram flossing. They living like this. They riding in private jets. They wearing all designer labels. And I'm like, these people ain't making no money. I hope these people are not following these people, not for their expertise, but because they want to live like them. And I'm
Hmm.
like, you don't understand. The internet is the best. It's the best and worst place to build a brand because anybody can be anybody they say they are on the internet, right? My whole thing is Google them.
Yeah.
Do you see information that they are an expert in? Do you see it on more than one platform? Do you see any results? Like what I love at this point in my career is like I don't have to explain to anybody whether or not I can solve their problem, right? What I talk about with people is availability and price. Like, do I
Yeah.
even have time on my schedule to even coach you? Right. That's literally, but I earned the right to go there. Right. You know what I mean? I did the hard work. I was on Twitter for 2 years in the early days and nobody was really kind of paying attention to me. I mean, people always want to know, how did you get 300 followers, 300,000 followers on Twitter? One person at a time. Literally, like that was like back in the day. So I think that it's important for people to look at people's track record, but there's a lot of really good salespeople out here that I think are just pitching and posing people, and then you've got the big people that do that, the Grant Cardones of the world, and all these people,
Yeah.
that make it look so easy, and I'm like, entrepreneurship is not easy. It's the furthest thing from it. And I think honestly, the reason why so many people follow me and trust me is because I tell the truth about entrepreneurship in my book, Become Your Own Boss. Like, I am not the hero at the end of every story. I tell the truth about some really expensive and dumb lessons that I had the opportunity to learn. And I think that's why people are like, she's legit. She's not out here selling wolf cookies. She is really telling the truth about this thing. I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world. Have been an entrepreneur for 25 years. I love
Wow.
doing it. And I was able to raise my son and live a wonderful life. And now I'm an empty nester. I don't know how to act now. So don't threaten me with a good time, Galen, because I will come because I am available. Okay. But
All right. We'll get you down for Mardi Gras next year. You're barely missing it this year, so
yeah, so I just think that I want people to be wise. I want people
yeah.
to, track down the information. Don't hire a coach that's only one step ahead of you. Hire a coach that's been where you're trying to go. And I really, that's my cautionary tale for all of it.
When we talk about this, we talk about like on this podcast first, we talk about the importance of a coach, right? Because so many people think they don't need one, but
Ooh,
you're right. There's a next level, which is then you got to get the right coach, right? Not just any coach. You know, um, Even a bad coach might be able to teach you a couple of things if you've never done any coaching, but
sure.
there's good and there's bad. And like for instance, I mean, look, and everything you're saying, I mean, this, Melinda, but everything you're saying checks out, right? Your podcast goes back to I think 2019. So pre-pandemic when everyone created a podcast, you know? And I get it. People were home. They
Right.
were freaking home. There was nothing to do. Like, I'm not mad about it. My podcast came out like post pandemic, but I definitely got the idea during the pandemic, you
Sure.
know? Like,
Sure.
I'm not mad about it, but you've been doing this and you've been doing it for a minute. And, you know, what I want to talk about, you have so much insight. I mean, you literally have thousands of hours of content, so we could never hit even, you know, percent, like 1% of it in one podcast. But I did pull out some things that I thought were really interesting. So,
Sure.
for instance, if you don't mind, like in Fix Your Business, you outline like a 90-day plan to regain control of your business.
Sure.
I really think this is a huge problem for public adjusters, contractors. I think they lose control of their business. I know lawyers do. I know lawyers do, you know, from personal experience. So in that like kind of 90-day plan, like we're not going to detail the whole thing, but what's the very first step? What's the very first step? Someone wants to go pick up your book. They want to learn 90 days to fix your, you know, they want that 90-day plan. What's the very first thing they're going to learn to do?
Well, the first thing is just being willing to make the decision that they're ready to fix their business. What I believe is that people know what's wrong in their business. They just haven't made the decision that they're ready to do something about it, right? That 800-pound gorilla, customer that treats you like crap, that doesn't pay you on time. Or the prima donna, employee that you have that antagonizes you and everybody else in the business, and you don't want to fire them because you don't want to go through the headache of replacing them, right? So you just let it go on, let it fester. And it's just, all of these things are ridiculous. Like, you need to cut the cord. You need to take the Band-Aid off. You need to go through the pain, so that you can come out on the other side of pain. And on the side of pain is joy, right? So I, I just think that the first thing I talk about in my book, Fix Your Business, is preparation. And it's from the standpoint of, you got to prepare your mind that you're ready to do this, that you're ready to win, that you're ready to streamline your operations, and that you're ready to work for clients that value you and don't treat you like dirt, that you're willing to, have employees that know what it is to be a part of a team and are proud to be a part of your team. And if they're not, and they're complaining all the time and asking for more money and time off and stuff, you're like, listen, you don't see what's going on here? We're grinding. You don't want to be about grinding, you can't be here. And that's okay. Love you from afar. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
don't be afraid to cut people off, because you can't let any monkey stop your show. You just can't. And that's customers that act like monkeys and employees that act like monkeys too, or even vendors. Sometimes I've had vendors jump bad with me, tell me what they not going to do. I'm like, well, let me tell you what I'm not going to do: pay you anymore. That's what I'm not going to do. Bye, girl, bye. You know what I mean? Like, so I was like, these vendors that want to tell me what the rules are, I'm like, listen, you don't understand how this works. So let me help you. Right. So
I
that's
mean,
number one for sure.
you're right. You're so right, though. Like, you know, I dealt with this struggle for years, right? Because I'd worked so many terrible places where the owners or the supervisor, the bosses were just, man, they were just so bad. So like when I opened my own business and finally got enough money to hire my own people, I was like, I'm going to be a good boss. I'm going to be a good boss. I'm going to love my people. And I do love my people. I actually care for them. But it effed me up, because then I thought firing someone that didn't have the right values and wasn't really aligned and wasn't contributing, like, undercut who I thought I was, right? So, and I
Mhm.
didn't realize like the best way to love my people is to love my business, because without my business, I can't pay them. And I had to get rid of people. And I think that mindset was huge for me, but it like caused me to think. Like, so many of our listeners, they kind of struggle. I think in your book you call them technicians. They struggle to kind of leave. Yeah, see, I do some reading before these things. But you know, they kind of struggle to leave that technician mindset. They're currently like technicians in their business,
Mhm.
and they can't really transition to business owners. And you have consulted with so many folks and
Mhm.
helped so many folks. What do you think the shift, how do they make that shift in their mindset? Because you said step one in the 90-day plan is prepare, right? But you got to get that mindset right. So what are some things you've seen people do to kind of make that shift?
Well, for one, get a coach to help you make a shift. I mean, the number one thing that a business coach is supposed to do for you is help you think differently, help you think bigger. And let me be very real with you. I have a coach. I have two coaches actually, for different things that I'm trying to do in my business. And so I think that every good coach has a coach. So if you work with somebody who tells you they don't have a coach, to keep walking, because they're not growing either, right? And I also think that you have to make a decision about your end game, right? For me, I had to make a decision that I didn't want a business that completely revolved around me. Yes, I am the small biz lady, but I have a team and I have platforms. I have a proprietary platform, Small Biz Lady University. We have a monthly membership site, Small Biz Lady Academy, right? I built those things so that I would have something that could live beyond me. And frankly, so that I could add more value to my company so that I could have something to sell one day, right? And so I think you got to think about, okay, how do I get beyond this cult of personality, kind of business, and start thinking about what is my end game? How many more years do you want to work? What is it that you're trying to do? Like for me, I have one son. He is now in college. He is studying computer science. And what I know is that one day my son is going to want to start a business. I know for a fact he's going to come and be like, Mama, I want to start my own gaming design business, whatever. Right. And I want to be able to write the seed check. Right. I want to
Mm,
write the $1 million check for him. I don't want my child to have to go beg nobody for a quarter, because I want to be able to write the check for him. I want to be his investor. And that is what drives me now. That's like, okay, what do I got to do to 10x this thing so that we can, eventually one day sell it, license it, rent it? I don't know what we can white label it. I don't know, but I want to make sure that I have the resources to support the next generation in my family. And
mm.
that is what is important to me. And that's what drives me at this point. So when you start thinking like that, you got to realize that how you're doing business today, that ain't it. You got to think bigger. You got to expand your team. And where do you expand it? Most people need to expand their sales systems first. Most people need to make sure that their sales process is tight, is A, developed, and B, tight. You don't want a sales funnel that's leaking leads, right? So I want you to think about how you can ramp up your sales. And sometimes everybody thinks, oh, I need to run out and get me a sales rep. No, you might just need an appointment setter, right? You might just need a closer or a qualifier. You might not need to go out and hire yourself, 75 to $120,000 sales rep. That might not be it. That's a great way. If you don't have your sales processes defined, that's a great way for a salesperson to snow you and take a bunch of your money and not give you any results. So I think the first place you want to look when it's time to expand your business or think about, you got to think about the new vision, and you've got to write it down so you can make it plain so you can follow it. And then you've got to look at your sales systems and how you can beef up your sales organization and your leads and your follow-up systems for sure.
That makes so much sense. Yeah, you're right. I mean, look, even in the storm restoration industry, right? It's cool to be the contractor on the commercials. That probably feeds your ego, makes you feel good. Be the public adjuster, on the news and at the conferences. Be the lawyer on like 60 Minutes or Dr. Phil. Like that all feels really good,
Yeah,
right? You feel very important when you're doing that stuff.
sure.
But it doesn't, you're not growing anything. You're working for yourself. And as long as you're your most valuable employee, like there's
You're in
really
trouble.
nowhere for you to go.
You're in trouble. If you're the only person in your business thinking about how your business makes money, you are in trouble. And the other thing I want to just say about this whole, being on TV and being on the news or being on Dr. Phil is that sometimes you have to make a decision whether or not you want to be famous or you want to be rich. Because
Mm.
I like the fact that as famous as I am, and I don't really feel like I'm famous, I feel like I'm a Twitter celebrity, like not really a celebrity.
You
But
get some attention, girl. You get some
but
attention.
like, I can go to the grocery store. Nobody's checking for me. Nobody is in my bushes trying to take pictures of me. I can go anywhere looking a hot mess and nobody's looking for me. So I think there's a value in really having a real narrow niche and being the king or queen of your niche, but not Kim Kardashian famous. Like that is something I
Mm.
do not aspire to whatsoever. I want to make an honest dollar. I want to help as many small business owners as I can, but I am not seeking, fame at the level, because first of all, it's all fake anyway. That stuff is not important. It's nice to have some clips and have people be able to Google you and see some stuff. But at the end of the day, it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. And you got to be focused on that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's almost like like because I kind of come in with these talking points, right? And it's like you read them all or something before because that actually is like literally the next point I wanted to make, which is you're the small biz lady. Like anyone in business coaching, they know that, and that's who you are. And now I'm gonna punk you and get like some paparazzi to follow you around one day, but just so you can know what it's like. But but you are the expert in that field. And I feel like what you said is so true. That's your time and effort is so much better spent being the person in your niche as opposed to being like the man or the woman, period, right?
Exactly.
But where do you suggest you start? Like you put in grit. You like really did it. But
Yeah,
so if I'm like sitting here, if I'm a brand new service-based industry like a contractor, PA, attorney,
sure.
like what should be my thought? What kind of things should I be considering if I want to become the new go-to storm person?
I think you've got to figure out what your niche is. There is, you get rich in the niche, right? So you really got to figure out what is your angle. For me, back when I got started, my gosh, in 2006, there was nobody out here talking about small business, talking about how to, you got an idea, you want to turn it into a business, here's what you need to do. I think Gerber had just written the first edition of eMint, like back then, right? '05. So I didn't have a dearth of competition. But what I knew is that I would have run my first business better if I had had better business advice. And so I wrote Become Your Own Boss in 12 months because it was the book I had never read. That is literally the reason why. I did not set out to be a business coach. I didn't set out to be a business expert. Literally, what all I was trying to do was get people off my phone, right? Because I would have girlfriends that would call me and they'd be like, "Girl, I want to be like you. I want to quit my job today. I want to be an entrepreneur." And I was like, "Girl, you can't quit your job. You love Prada. You can't quit your job. Like, you got a $4,000 a month mortgage and two brand new cars outside. You can't quit your job. You better go back in there and say you sorry and keep your job." You know what I mean? And so it all started for me with an ebook that I wrote called 44 Things to Do Before You Go into Business. So prior to me having my book, I used to just email this little ebook to people. And then somehow people started sharing it and sharing it. And it like kind of became viral on the internet. And then I got the idea when I was pregnant with my son. I ended up being home on bed rest for 6 months. And that was when
Oh
I
my
did,
God.
yeah, it was like kind of a nightmare. I almost lost my business. Like, that's a whole story I won't even get into. But suffices to say, I used that time. Now in '05, you guys, Wi-Fi was not in everybody's house. That didn't happen till '07. So what I need you guys to understand is that I was just at home and I had notebooks and I was just like, let me just write some of this stuff down. And literally, I just started writing down all the expensive lessons I learned in business. And that became Become Your Own Boss. And then when Become Your Own Boss was supposed to be published at the top of '09, well, I think you remember what happened in fourth quarter of '08, right? So the
Yeah, not
market
the best time to
crashed.
be publishing a business book.
Not at all. Like my publisher was like, "Thank you so much for being a first-time author that actually turned your book in on time." But listen, we don't think anyone's thinking about entrepreneurship right now, so we're shelving your book for 18 months. They did not bring my book out until March of 2010. And I had to figure out what in the world I was going to do, waiting for this book to come out. and Twitter was only 1 years old. So I want you to get in your time machine with me and go back
Mm.
to literally, I figured out one platform, one message. And I literally stayed on message. And that's how I built my brand. If you were just getting started right now today, I would tell you pick out one platform and one niche target audience and serve them well. And your gifts will make room for you, because what I will tell you is like there's lots of small business experts out here, but none of them, I shouldn't say none of them, but not many of them are very distinctive or unique at this point. So it's like a sea of copycats out here. I
Yeah.
specialized in serving my audience, and I have never wavered from it. And my nickname is Small Biz Lady, which like is also the best branding in the world that ever happened to me. And how that even happened was, so when I first got to Twitter in '08, my name, Melinda Emerson, was taken. So I had to come up with a nickname on the spot. And so a girlfriend of mine was helping me, and she was like, well, let's come up with a name that's, good keywords, tell people who you are and what you do. And I was like, what do you mean, like Mindy or Melly Mel or something? And she said, no, fool, you're not a rapper. I'm not trying to give you a name like that. Let's come up with a name that tells people who you are and what you do. And so that was the day I became the Small Biz Lady, which we now know is like the best branding accident in the whole world that could have ever happened to me. So,
It was great branding. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It feels like I have to be careful sometimes how I say things because sometimes the people I'm talking about listen. But it feels like there's a lot of copycats.
oh,
It,
yeah.
it feels like we're in a world where there's more copycats. I assume it's because of the proliferation of social media and especially now AI because you can write a book. It's not going
Yeah,
to be a
but
good
you can't
book.
copyright nothing out of AI, children. Don't be doing
Yeah.
that. You can
Yeah,
use
but
AI
and it
for
won't be a good book.
research, but you cannot write a whole book from. Stop it. You can't
Well,
do.
I agree, right? But the wannabes can do it, and it,
Yeah.
it might not be good quality, but that requires to know it's bad quality. That requires someone to actually read it, which I
Well,
get the sense people aren't reading anyway. They're seeing, oh, they have a book, oh,
listen.
they have
Audible
podcasts,
Audible is selling more books than anybody else. Okay, so no, they're not reading it; they're listening to it.
And then you got to wonder: are they working out? Are they driving? Are they even hearing what's being said? Right? Or are they saying they listened to the book or read the book? I don't know, but it's crazy. But you're right; it's kind of uncomfortable because it feels like there's so many copycats and like people that are just putting bad content out there. So like,
Oh yeah,
I guess my question is, because I guess let's switch to finances because we're almost out of time, and I knew I wouldn't get through even half of the things I wanted to talk to you about today. But let's talk about finances for a second.
sure.
Let's do pricing.
Mhm.
I feel like in storm restoration, pricing is this weird thing. Like public adjusters just all charge the same thing, and contractors just try to take all of the insurance proceeds, right? So their pricing is all, if that makes sense, or max.
Mhm.
But you kind of have different theories on pricing, and you talk about kind of the need to price services for like profitability and sustainability. So
Mhm.
like talk a little bit about your theory on that.
Well, you have to figure out what your strategy is, right? Some people want to be the luxury player in the marketplace, so they charge the most because they don't want everybody. They just want people that want the perceived best, right?
Mm.
And then there's people like Walmart who are like, they don't care. They're just trying to sign as many people as they can. So they have what we call volume pricing. So they have a fairly low entry level, and then there's like my Macy's people right in the middle, right? They're not gouging people, but they're not the cheapest. They're kind of like middle of the road, right? So you have to kind of figure out who you want to be in the marketplace when it comes to pricing. And the other thing you've got to figure out is you always want to price and serve in a way that keeps a customer or earns you a referral, because keeping your customers is the most important thing you can do. And Lord, getting them to give you a referral, let me tell you something, referrals close 60% of the time.
Mm.
So being good to a customer and not taking all the insurance money is really going to benefit you, because that person's going to tell two or three other people who lost their houses down the street, how you treated them. Right.
Yeah.
So I just feel like you always want to err on the side of, you want to make it fair, right? You got to earn a living. They got to get their house fixed and might have had some other, hardships befall them in this whole process. But you really have to think about, how can I price myself? How can I serve to keep the relationship? And if
Yeah.
you focus on that, you're going to come up with the right price, I'm sure.
Mm, I love it. Well, Melinda, we are almost out of time, and I knew that you had way more to give than I could even reasonably ask you for time. So thank you for that. But before you go, I do have to ask you, Melinda, what does it mean to you to level up?
Oh gosh, what it means to level up is to think about the end game in my business. It's not about today, it's about 5 years, 10 years from now. Do you have enough in your business that you can sell it, or is your business going to die with you? That's what you got to think about. When we think about leveling up, it's like, do you have something in your business you can sell, or is your business completely revolving around you? You got a job, or are you actually running a business? Because people that run businesses have staff, have teams. So figure out how you can get some more hands in your business so that you can build more value.
Mm, I love that. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it was absolutely my pleasure.
I'd like to thank Melinda Emerson for joining us on the podcast. So much actionable insight right away, off the bat. What are you doing in your business? Is your business solely revolving around you? Do you have a succession plan? How can your business start to break away from you so you can stop working in your business and start working on it? Lots of good things to think about. Follow us on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player.